My name is Daniel Cole. I'm 34 years old, a lead systems engineer at a smart transportation tech company based out of South Lake Union. For the longest time, I believed I had it all: a stable career, a warm home, and a bright-eyed little boy named Mason, who just turned 4 last month. But today, everything began to crack, and it started with something so small, so vague. Seattle, on a rainy afternoon like any other. The sky, a dull wash of grey, hung low over the Lake Washington horizon. I parked in the underground garage, listening to the steady patter of rain tapping the hood. Then my phone buzzed. The screen lit up in the darkness. Ask Rachel about her bachelorette week. That boy's not yours. One sentence. No sender, no number, no emojis. I stared at the screen, frozen. There was no thunder, but a storm surged in my chest. It felt like my soul had been caught in a vice and twisted tight. I took the elevator up, heart pounding like bricks dropping one by one. The door to our apartment opened to the smell of warm pastry and the sound of a child's laughter. Mason ran up to me, his blonde hair a tousled mess, arms full of a crayon-colored robot. "Daddy, look! He shoots lasers." I knelt to hug him, feeling his tiny frame press into my chest. But my heart didn't swell like it usually did. Something inside me had quietly shattered. Rachel turned from the kitchen. Dark brown hair tied up, wearing a beige scoop-neck sweater and leggings that hugged her hips and thighs. The amber lighting made her fair skin glow. She smiled that same gentle smile that once made me fall for her back in college. "You're home early." I thought it'd be another dinner for just the two of us. I nodded. No traffic. Everything smooth. "We had dinner. I told them about work." Rachel laughed. Mason chirped along. Anyone watching would think we were the perfect family portrait. But inside me, a crack was widening by the second. After Mason went to bed, I stood quietly by his side. I leaned down to kiss his forehead like always, but my hand trembled. Something felt off. I remembered the peanut allergy incident, how the doctor had mentioned Mason's blood type was AB. Mine is O. Rachel's is A. That combination doesn't make AB. The memory resurfaced me sitting up late, combing through medical literature when Mason was sick. I hadn't been mistaken. That fact alone was enough to push me over the edge. The next morning, I called in sick. Drove to a private lab in Fremont, handed over my saliva sample and a few strands of Mason's hair from his hairbrush. "Paternity test," I muttered. Throat tight. The technician nodded, said nothing. 3 days later, the results came back. I opened the PDF in my parked car by the lake. Rain ticked on the windshield like a ticking clock. No biological relationship detected between alleged father and child. My grip loosened. The printout dropped to the floor. I stared up at the car ceiling, the world folding in around me. I remembered Rachel handing me that pregnancy test, her eyes glistening. "It's a miracle, Dan," she whispered. I had lifted her off her feet, spun her around the living room. I used to believe in miracles. Now all I saw was betrayal. That night, Rachel stepped out of the shower, hair damp, wearing a sheer cream-colored nightgown with no bra underneath. She crawled into bed, stretched herself across me, and whispered into my ear, "You've been quiet today. Want me to help you relax a little?" She guided my hand to her hip, her long legs brushing mine like a lover's whisper. That body used to drive me mad. It was once my sanctuary through every storm. Now, her every touch made my stomach churn. I ran a hand through her hair and smiled gently. "I'm just tired. Big meeting tomorrow." She pouted, rolled over, pressed her back against me, her hips nudging in silent invitation. But I felt nothing, just the void. I tossed and turned for hours, then got up and opened my laptop. I needed answers. A name? A reason? I pulled up Rachel's iCloud archive, something I once helped her set up. The password hadn't changed. Inside were years of messages, photos, old emails. One name kept popping up. Jake. I slammed the laptop shut. My pulse roared in my ears. Jake Weller, my best friend, my college roommate, the guy who introduced me to Rachel at our graduation party. The man who stood beside me at my wedding, raising a toast to the luckiest guy in Seattle. Jake, the one I trusted more than family. I opened the laptop again, clicked through the emails, read each one. That night, I shouldn't have come to your room, but I did. And I don't regret it. Daniel will never know. Right, I pulled my earbuds out. I couldn't listen. My mind was already painting the image. Rachel, naked in Jake's bed. During the week, she'd sworn was just a harmless girl's trip.
I sat there, motionless, every nerve in my body screaming. The rain outside was still falling. Streetlights bled through the window, blurry in my burning eyes. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I needed to survive. And then I needed to take back everything they stole from me. I opened a blank Word doc. My fingers typed one line like it was being carved in stone. Plan justice for Daniel. Just then, the bedroom door creaked open. Rachel peeked out, hair tousled, eyes squinting sleepily. "Why are you still up?" I tilted the screen away, smiled. "Just work? Prepping documents for a project." She nodded drowsily and closed the door. I stared at the screen, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in my reflection that had never been there before. Cruelty. The next morning, Rachel made coffee like she always did, the faint scent of vanilla drifting through the kitchen. Mason was in the corner on the rug, playing with his dinosaur figurines.
I sat on a bar stool, holding a steaming mug in my hands, but it may as well have been empty. I couldn't taste a thing. "You were up late working again," Rachel said, turning toward me. Her thin white blouse clung to her waist, work piling up again. "Yeah. Stressful lately?" I didn't look at her. My eyes stayed locked on the boy. Morning light haloed Mason's blonde hair, making him look almost angelic. But I knew better. That angel didn't carry my blood. Rachel walked over and placed a hand gently on my shoulder. "I'm worried about you. You've been distant lately." I forced a weak smile. "I'm fine." But inside, my mind was a battlefield. I hadn't slept. I spent the entire night rereading dozens of messages between Rachel and Jake, some ancient, others dripping with fresh filth, line after line of raw, explicit detail, descriptions of every position, every moan, photos of her in this very house, wearing nothing but a towel slipping off her shoulders. They wrote about the first rainy night, about the towel Rachel used to wipe the sweat after they finished, and Jake even described how she choked a little because she couldn't swallow it all. I read every word, each one sliced through me like a blade, but I needed the whole story. I needed to understand it fully if I was going to burn them both down with the truth. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. I need legal advice on custody rights for a child I've raised for 4 years, but isn't biologically mine. Her name was Linda Grossman, Jewish, sharp as a scalpel. And all business, if your name is on the birth certificate, you're the legal father. And if you can prove the mother's environment is unstable, you still have a shot at full custody. I nodded. I have evidence. Plenty of it. Good, she said. But you have to be discreet. One wrong move, she could vanish with the kid. Then you'll have nothing. Her words chilled me. The thought of losing Mason despite the DNA made my chest seize. I was the one who'd rocked him to sleep, changed his diapers, helped with preschool assignments. Blood or not, that boy was carved into my heart. That night, I set the trap. I bought a smartwatch with a hidden voice recorder. Set it to auto-activate on voice detection. I started logging every conversation in the house, especially when Rachel took calls. And then came the first recording. "Jake, relax. Daniel's clueless. He's so busy, still so naive. I smirked. Naive. She didn't know who she was living with one night after she'd fallen asleep. I installed a photo recovery app on her old phone. In a hidden folder, I found a blurry front camera clip Rachel naked, lying on Jake's chest, whispering his name in a breathless moan. I backed everything up, encrypted it, and stored it on an external drive. The next day, I forced myself to act normal, but every touch made my skin crawl. Rachel stood in the shower, lathering body wash over her breasts, giving me a sultry look. "It's been a while since you've touched me," she said. I walked up and kissed her shoulder. "I'll make it up to you, on our anniversary." She smiled, pressing her wet chest against mine. I'll be waiting for that night. She had no idea it'd be the last night she'd ever smile like that. After dinner, Mason ran up and handed me a drawing. "Look, Daddy, I drew our family. There's Uncle Jake too." My hand stiffened. "Why's Uncle Jake in it? He came over a lot when you were on trips." "Mommy said he's super close to us." I clenched the paper. Rachel was still washing dishes, back turned. She had no idea how close I was to snapping. That night, I called Jake. "You free tomorrow night?" He chuckled. "What's up? Remember my wedding anniversary's coming up. Thought I'd invite you over. Small get-together." Got me reminiscing about college days. "Absolutely," he said, chipper as ever. He still thought I was the same old Daniel nice guy, awkward engineer, the friend who trusted too easily. But I wasn't that man anymore. I was someone building the perfect mousetrap out of our pretend perfect home. Later that night, Rachel asked. "I was thinking of taking Mason to Gasworks Park tomorrow. Want to come?" "No," I said, eyes still on my laptop. "I've got work to finish." She walked over, bent down, wrapped her arms around my neck, her chest pressing into my shoulder. "Sometimes I feel like I've already lost you." I turned, placing a hand gently on her cheek. "Not yet. Rachel, you're about to see me clearer than ever." But not in the way she thought. Saturday night. The house was soaked in the scent of wine, vanilla candles, and soft jazz humming from the Bluetooth speaker. I laid everything out on the dining table: rare steak, mashed potatoes, arugula salad with goat cheese and walnuts, Rachel's favorite. The lighting was dim, cozy, the atmosphere almost absurdly romantic. I almost laughed. I'd crafted a perfect little illusion just to shatter it with my own hands. Rachel wore a deep red dress, hem below the knee, bare back, her chest subtly lifted by a nearly invisible bra. Her eyes shimmered, cheeks pink from 2 glasses of wine. She walked up behind me, gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "This is amazing. Daniel," she whispered into my ear, voice sweet and sultry. "Poison dipped in honey." Jake showed up about 15 minutes after dinner. Navy button-up shirt, that same wide grin, that same effortless confidence he'd always had. He hugged me, and I gave him a light pat on the back. "Long time no see. You look just like college, just with more money." He laughed. "And you, man, you've got it all. Gorgeous house, beautiful wife, perfect kid. What else could you want?" "True," I said, raising my glass. "Guess I'm lucky." Rachel sat beside me, but her gaze kept floating to Jake just a second too long. I noticed that subtle electricity. Most people wouldn't pick up on it, but I knew the language of their silence. I'd read hundreds of their messages. I knew every coded glance like a second language. After dinner, I suggested drinks in the backyard. The Seattle night air had a slight chill, but the fire pit and string lights made it feel warm, even intimate. Rachel went in for more wine. Jake pulled out his phone and cracked a joke or two. I waited for the perfect moment. Then I said, "Rachel, you remember your bachelorette week?" She blinked. "Why are you bringing that up?" Jake chuckled. "Playing it cool? Sounds like someone's feeling suspicious." I sipped my wine. "Just curious. You said it was Palm Springs. Right spa weekend with the girls." Rachel gave a half smile. Yeah. Girls trip. Shopping. Massages. You know, I locked eyes with her.
No one else? Nothing unusual? She frowned. Daniel, I don't know what you're getting at. I set my glass down. I know. Rachel. Silence. Jake shifted in his seat. His face tightened. What do you mean? Rachel's voice trembled slightly. I know Mason isn't mine. I got a paternity test. I know about you and Jake. Not just once, 4 years of it. Rachel shot up from her seat. You've been spying on me. Jake looked between us. Shit. I nodded, voice like ice. I know everything, photos, texts, videos, even that clip from our honeymoon when you told me you had a stomach bug while moaning his name into your phone. Rachel sank back into her chair. Daniel, I didn't want you to find out like this. I laughed, a sharp, broken sound. And how did you want me to find out when Mason asks why he has Jake's eyes? Jake leaned forward. Look, Daniel, it's not as simple as you think. I stood, voice steady and steel cold. It's very simple. You slept with my wife. You were at my wedding. Every time I left town, you crept into my home, into my bed. And you, Rachel, you told me you loved me. You had a child with me. Then let me raise him like a damn fool. Rachel was crying now. I didn't know who Mason's father was back then. I was scared of losing you. I really was. I couldn't tell you. Jake was a mistake. But I couldn't stop. I felt alive when I was with him. I clenched my jaw. And what did you feel with me? She whispered, like it was a confession. Stability. Jake said nothing. He wasn't smiling now. Just a man laid bare in a backyard he used to enter like a friend. I pointed at them both. You two deserve each other. One who clings to sex to feel alive, the other who envies everything his best friend has, but I'm not Daniel the fool anymore. Rachel wiped her face. Then what are you going to do? I smiled. Oh, this is just the beginning. I turned and walked inside, leaving them in the dark. In their fear?
On the kitchen counter, my laptop was open. The screen showed a video Jake kissing Rachel in our living room. The camera, hidden behind the bookshelf, caught every detail. I copied the file to a USB drive. Tomorrow, it would land in the inbox of the one person Jake feared most, his legal partner. The quiet war begins. I didn't leave the house the next morning. Neither did Rachel. She sat slumped on the couch, hair a mess, eyes swollen from crying all night. Jake had left at 2 no goodbye, no apology, just an unfinished wine glass on the table and a guilt-stricken stare before he slipped out the door. I'd stayed up too, but not from anger, from clarity. Every move from now on had to be calculated. The role of perfect husband was over. It was time to play the judge. Last night was a mistake, Rachel muttered as I stepped into the kitchen. I'll pack up and go. But please don't let Mason find out. I cut her off with a glance as cold as stone. You're not going anywhere.
Not yet. We go on like nothing's happened. Mason will not be hurt. And I'll do whatever it takes to protect him from his own mother. Rachel froze. She knew I wasn't bluffing. I called Linda Grossman. I need you to help me draft a divorce petition, fight for custody, and make sure our evidence is airtight. Do you have messages, photos, videos? She asked. All of it, even verbal admission. Good. But you'll need to act like nothing's wrong. You want her defenses down. I'll take care of the rest. I followed her advice. For the next 3 weeks, I was the model husband of the neighborhood, took Rachel out to dinner, brought her flowers, threw a little party for Mason. Every smile I gave her was a slap to the rotting remnants of her pride. I locked the USB drive in a safety deposit box at the bank. The hard drive with the rest of the evidence, password protected, using Jake's birthday, a detail he'd never think I'd remember, let alone use to destroy him.
One night, while Rachel was in the shower, I walked into Mason's room and found a picture book open on the bed. Between 2 pages, there was a scrap of paper. Written in pencil, I miss Uncle Jake, I wanted to tell Daddy, but Mommy said I can't. I snapped a photo. Carefully. Didn't even crease the edges, and this wasn't just sad, it was gold. Rachel wasn't just unfaithful. She was manipulating our son to cover her betrayal. The next step in the plan built up Rachel's image. I suggested she start posting more about our happy family again. Cute photos of her hugging Mason, the three of us at Discovery Park, me kissing her forehead at Mason's school drop-off. Every image had a purpose. To show the world she wore a mask, a doting mother online, a liar in reality. Then I struck. I sent an anonymous email to the school where Rachel taught, not from my account, a fake one, disguised as a concerned parent. Subject line: do you know what kind of person is teaching your children? I attached photos, screenshots, and audio clips. I knew the school wouldn't tolerate a scandal, especially one involving a teacher engaged in a long-term extramarital affair that endangered a child's emotional well-being. A week later, Rachel received a summons from the school's ethics board. Her face went pale as she read it, her voice trembling. They said a parent complained. I might get suspended. I feigned surprise. For what? Something personal? Someone sent them pictures and a video. Do you think it was you? I gently placed a hand on her shoulder, looking as innocent as sin. You know I'd never do anything to hurt you? She cried, and inside, I laughed. But I wasn't done. I scheduled a meeting with Jake's law firm partner, William Haynes, founder and managing director of the firm where Jake served as deputy legal counsel. I wore a tailored grey suit, my face composed. In William's office, I opened my laptop. I didn't speak much. Just played the video of Jake and Rachel in my living room, followed by an audio clip. Jake joking. Getting one over on Daniel was easier than stealing candy. William turned white. This can't go public. But I understand. What do you want? Nothing, I said. Just thought you should know what kind of man's handling your $1 million divorce cases. One who sleeps with his best friend's wife and mocks him for it. 3 days later, Jake was suspended without pay. An internal investigation was underway. The press hadn't caught on yet, but I had already won round one. Rachel started unraveling. She drank at night, checked my phone when she thought I was asleep, followed me with her eyes like a caged animal. One time, I left a decoy key to a fake safe on the desk. She took the bait. Inside, she found meaningless documents, receipts, old birthday cards, nothing real. She still didn't know the real evidence was stored elsewhere. The cracks were showing. Her mind was fraying. Mason, sweet and unaware, still ran to me every morning, still wrapped his arms around me like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I had changed. She didn't know. Jake didn't know. I didn't want a clean divorce. I wanted to obliterate them. Every night, I opened the file, planned justice for Daniel, and added one more line. Next milestone, wedding anniversary. The anniversary that burned everything down for our 5th wedding anniversary. I planned an intimate dinner at Oriole, a lakeside restaurant overlooking Union Lake. Private room, candlelight, a soft golden glow dancing across the glass as the lake shimmered under Seattle's dreamy night sky. From the outside, it looked like a perfect evening. But inside, we were nearing the final act of a very deliberate performance. I told Rachel, I want to mark a fresh start. Let's leave the tension behind. We deserve peace. She teared up, thinking this was forgiveness. I'll try. I promise. I smiled and brushed her cheek. Just enjoy tonight. Everything's been arranged. She wore an emerald silk gown with a plunging neckline. Her full chest swayed gently as she walked, her curled brown hair falling like soft waves down her back, lips painted deep red like she was ready to whisper some sacred vow. But all I saw was something rotten wrapped in satin, a body I once craved, now only reminded me of the sounds she made, moaning Jake's name, while I sat stranded at the airport, calling her on FaceTime. The event unfolded exactly as I planned. About 20 guests, mostly mutual friends, a few of my colleagues, and some of Rachel's family, including her parents from Tacoma. I toasted with everyone, wore the perfect smile of a man willing to give his wife a second chance. The DJ played Can't Help Falling in Love. Rachel pulled me to the dance floor, resting her head against my chest like nothing had ever happened. "This is perfect," she whispered. "I wish time could stop right now." I leaned down to her ear. "I agree, because after tonight, there'll be nothing left to hold on to." She looked up. "What do you mean?" I gently tucked a curl behind her ear. "Wait right here. I've got a surprise." I stepped onto the stage. A spotlight followed me as the room quieted. All eyes turned toward me. I smiled at the crowd. Tonight's a special night. 5 years ago. I stood at an altar, placed my hand on my heart, and said, "I vow to be faithful, in joy and in sorrow." I looked at Rachel, and I kept that vow. She smiled, hands pressed to her chest, bracing for what she thought was going to be a heartwarming tribute. But, I continued, happiness can't come from just one side. I signaled the staff. The main lights dimmed. The LED screen behind me lit up. The video began. Silence blanketed the room. On screen, Rachel, in our bedroom, naked, curled up against Jake. Her voice gasped through the speakers. I've never felt this way with Daniel. Gasps. Someone covered their mouth. Rachel's mother shot to her feet. Rachel panicked. "Daniel, turn it off, turn it off." I held the mic, voice calm as ever. "We're not done." The screen shifted to the next slide. The DNA test results, official stamp from the lab. No biological relationship between Daniel Cole and Mason Cole. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jake stood frozen near the door, pale and visibly shaken. I turned the mic toward him. "Jake, old friend, got anything you'd like to say?" He stammered. "Daniel, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I didn't think you'd be this smart." I smiled. "And you still just the bastard who can't stand to see someone else have what you never earned." Rachel screamed. "You're destroying everything in front of my family, in front of everyone."
"No," I said, eyes locked on her. "I'm exposing what you built on lies." She lunged for the mic, but I stepped aside. Restaurant staff stepped in, politely guiding her out as she sobbed, hysterical. I didn't stop them. I turned back to the guests. "Mason is a boy I've raised since day one. I love him. But love doesn't mean blindness. She cheated, slept with my best friend, lied for 4 years, and turned me into a joke." No one spoke. Silence said it all. I bowed slightly, then walked off stage as smooth jazz mockingly resumed through the sound system. In my car, I opened my phone. A message from Linda, my lawyer. "We have everything we need and custody petition is being filed." I closed my eyes, head resting against the seat. Outside, Rachel was somewhere screaming into the void. Jake was being iced out by his firm. And me, I had just reclaimed my name. And I'd only just begun dismantling theirs.
Their careers in ruins. 3 days after the nightmarish anniversary dinner, Seattle kept weeping a soft, endless drizzle, like the sky itself was ashamed for Rachel and Jake. Rachel went back to her parents' place that night. She called, texted, sobbed into my voicemail. I didn't answer. I saved everything for the record. Every apology, every desperate plea, every trembling "I still love you. Please forgive me," I forwarded to my lawyer, who listened to each file like it was evidence in a murder trial. The court had officially accepted our custody petition. Thanks to Linda Grossman, a velvet-wrapped blade in heels, my file was airtight. Psychological instability, sustained deceit, emotional manipulation, a toxic environment for a child, everything meticulously documented. We even included a child psychology evaluation, which read, "Mason displays anxiety when questioned about his mother and consistently seeks emotional security from his father." Rachel tried to fight back. She hired a private attorney, showed up to the preliminary hearing looking polished and contrite, even cried as she read her statement aloud. But it all crumbled when I submitted the final clip, a clear phone recording of her whispering to Jake. "Mason's not Daniel's, but I'll never tell him. You know how sweet he is. I need him to raise the kid." The judge went quiet for several seconds. Then it was over. Like solving a basic equation, I was granted primary custody. Rachel was limited to 4 supervised visitation days per month. She couldn't take Mason outside of King County without written permission from me. As for Jake, I sent the infamous lovers footage of him and Rachel to someone special, Emily Rhodes, investigative reporter for K5 Seattle, known for her work exposing ethical scandals in the legal world. I used an anonymous email, attached the file, and wrote, "A deputy director at a top law firm has carried on a years-long affair with his best friend's wife. Video and supporting materials attached. Handle it however your code dictates." 3 days later, the 9 p.m. news broke. Ethics scandal rocks. Haynes and O'Connell, deputy director, accused of inappropriate relationship with friend's wife. His face was blurred, but anyone who knew Jake could tell it was him. The firm immediately suspended him. Behind closed doors, I heard he was asked to resign to preserve the firm's reputation. But I wasn't finished. I found out Jake had an upcoming TV interview regarding a high-profile civil suit he was handling. I sent the affair footage to the opposing party, the company he was suing. They didn't waste a second. The next morning, they issued a public statement. "We will be filing a motion to revoke Jake Weller's right to represent this case on the grounds of unethical conduct and potential professional violations." Jake called me late that night. His voice was hollow, defeated. "I've lost everything. Daniel, everything." I said nothing.
Give me a chance. Please. I know you'll never forgive me, but don't kill me like this, I replied with one sentence. "You should be grateful I let you live." Then I hung up. Rachel, she spiraled even harder. After losing custody and getting fired by the school board due to a formal ethics breach, she drowned herself in wine. One night, her mother called me, voice trembling. "Daniel, Rachel's not well. She's falling apart. She's not the same person anymore. Could you talk to her?" I paused, then replied, "I've said enough for 4 years. Now I just act." In the months that followed, I hired a nanny for Mason. We moved to a new apartment closer to his school. I bought back a share in the startup, where I'd been the lead engineer. For the first time in 5 years, I could sleep. No Rachel murmuring in the dark, no pretending to love the woman I despised most in the world. I took Mason to weekly child therapy. He was getting better.
He didn't mention Uncle Jake anymore. All he knew was this dad always keeps his word. Dad never leaves. One afternoon, while picking Mason up from school, I saw Rachel waiting at the gate. Her face was gaunt, hair unkempt, eyes bloodshot with sleepless regret. She stepped in front of me, voice cracking. "Daniel, if I said I've lost everything, would you believe me?" I crouched down, tied Mason's shoelace, then stood and met her eyes. "No, because you never had anything. You borrowed everything from me, and now I've taken it back." She stood frozen in the schoolyard, like a ghost. A nearby mother pulled her child closer, eyeing Rachel like something diseased. I took Mason's hand and walked away into the cool, late afternoon. No looking back. No regrets. No forgiveness. The man they no longer recognize. 2 years have passed since the night Rachel was unmasked beneath the warm lights of that restaurant, stripped bare not by my words, but by the silence of everyone who once adored her. Seattle remains wet and cold, but inside me the storms have passed. I did what so many betrayed men only fantasize about. I won, and I survived. I, Daniel Cole, am now the co-founder and CTO of an AI startup that specializes in psychological analytics. Just last quarter, we closed a $30 million Series B investment from Amazon Ventures. In a feature for Wired, I was described as a cold-eyed engineer with the gaze of someone who's tasted blood. but no one knows that blood once came from my own heart. Mason is 7 now, healthy, curious, reading above grade level and always drawing. One day he drew me as a superhero shielding him from a giant black cloud. I taped that picture to our fridge every morning. I look at it and remember Faith didn't die, it just waited. We live in Capitol Hill now. Bright, open apartment. On weekends, I take Mason out martial arts, cooking classes, long walks by the sound. At night, I make up stories for him, villains, betrayal, heroes. But I never speak Rachel's name. I don't need to. He never asks. And that's the most beautiful answer I could ever receive. As for Rachel, after losing her job, she tried launching a YouTube channel, raising joy, parenting with purpose. But the internet doesn't forgive. A pinned comment under her first video read, "You cheated on your husband for 4 years. Who are you to teach anyone how to raise a child?" She shut the channel down within 2 months. Jake disappeared from Seattle entirely. Word is, he moved to Montana, opened a tiny civil law office. I don't care. I never wanted him dead. I just needed him alive enough to feel the weight of what he once had, and would never get back. Shame is its own prison. Then, one rainy day in March, I met Sarah. She was a UI/UX designer brought in during a system overhaul for our app. Not flashy like Rachel. Sarah was calm, tidy, with laughing eyes and a way of looking at me that felt different. Not pity, not admiration, just presence. She saw me, without projection, without agenda. After our first meeting, she said, "I didn't expect someone who's clearly been through hell to speak so calmly. How much did you have to practice to be that composed?" I paused, then replied, "I didn't practice. I died once. Everything after that is just a second life." We started seeing each other more, first for work, then for tea, then for long, meandering talks under soft lights. She never asked too much. But when I shared, she listened like each sentence was a puzzle piece she genuinely wanted to understand. No judgment, no pressure. I remember our first night together. Not rushed, not frenzied. Just 2 people who'd been broken before, learning how to touch with trust instead of instinct.
Afterward, she laid her head on my arm and whispered, "If I had met you first, would you have married me without hesitation?" I answered, "If I had met you first, I'd never have known how deep betrayal could go. And maybe I wouldn't have become the man I am today." She laughed. "So I should thank your ex." I looked up at the ceiling, smiling faintly. "No. Just thank yourself for showing up last and still choosing to stay." A week ago, Rachel sent an email. "Daniel, I know what I did can't be forgiven, but if you'll allow it, I'd like to see Mason again. Not to take him. Just so he remembers I was his mother." I forwarded it to Linda. She replied, "We can decline if the child isn't ready. Ultimately, it's your call." I printed the email and left it on the kitchen counter. Then I asked Mason, "If someday you got to see your mom again, would you want that?" He thought about it.
Then looked up at me. Brown eyes, still as clear as the day I held him in that hospital room for the first time. "I just want to be with you, Dad. Mom, she's an old story." I pulled him into my arms, holding him like I was holding my entire life. The answer was crystal. I picked up a pen, and on the court's response form, I wrote 1-line request denied. I no longer need to destroy anyone. I'm not living to punish anymore. I live for my son, for the woman by my side, for myself. But if those who once betrayed me, still think I'm Daniel Cole from 5 years ago, they're wrong. I am the man they no longer recognize.